Hello, hello. Happy Tuesday, my friends. I hope it is a fabulous Tuesday for you so far. I just waiting for the usual sound check. Today, if you're catching this on the replay, today's topic is all about what are we talking about? Oh, yes, we're talking about the five most common questions that I get asked from self publishing nonfiction authors. There's actually a long list of questions I could have hit, but I kind of picked the five that were top of mind that I've been asked most recently. So that's what we're going to cover today. So as you join in, if you're watching the replay, go hashtag replay, tell me where you're watching from, say hello. And if you're watching live, same thing, say hello. Let me know where you're watching from. And definitely confirm that you can hear me so that I know we have audio power live and good so everyone can hear me. There's always sometimes a surprise that I've been talking and nobody could hear me. So we don't want that to happen. All right. So if this is your first live stream, here's a tip. Participate, even if you're watching the replay. Participate because we have prizes for participation. And the replay watchers also get prizes when you comment the day a video is released on the Book Launchers channel. You get entered to win a hashtag No Boring Books mug or our Oh So Soft journal, which I just happen to have our Oh So Soft journal right here. So this is the Oh So Soft journal. So you get entered to win for that. Hello, Brian. Welcome. Mary Lynn, thank you for letting me know that you can hear us. Angela. All right, so I'm just going to dive right in. Hey, David, good to have you here. Welcome. So again, today's topic, if you're just tuning in, is the sorry, I'm just pulling up some notes here. Lost my notes. It's the five most common self-publishing questions that I get asked from nonfiction authors. And there actually really could be a list of probably 20, but I picked five of the ones that were, recently I've been asked a lot. So if you're thinking of writing a nonfiction book or you have one underway and you're kind of wondering about some things like, will a traditional publisher still pick up my book? How do I revitalize a book that's out? It doesn't have sales. Or, working with book launchers. What's the best time to bring your book to book launchers? We're going to cover all those things and a couple of other ones. So first common question I get asked is, how can I revitalize sales on a book that's not selling? Now, this is actually going to be an entire video unto itself. So make sure you have subscribed to the channel and turn the notifications on so you catch that when it comes out this summer. But the short run through of this, and I hope you have a pen and paper, or you're going to want to rewatch this one because I'm going to hit you through a little bit of a checklist here. So, if you have reviews, that's my first question. Do you have reviews? Do you have at least 20 reviews? If not, that's where you want to start. You want to start by getting reviews. And there are multiple videos on this channel on how to get Amazon reviews. Angela might quickly grab one for you and post it in the chat. But otherwise, you can just search, Amazon reviews, book launchers in the YouTube search bar, and you will find a host of videos that will help you with this piece. Ultimately, you do have to beg, borrow, bribe, whatever it takes. Okay, maybe not bribe. Sorry, I've got something in my eye and it's just driving me a little crazy. But you have to get reviews. And speaking of reviews, the greatest gift you can give an author is a review. So if you have grabbed a copy of Self-Publish and Succeed, my book, which I was just looking, oh, here it is right here. It's just hiding under a piece of paper. This is my latest book. It is written for nonfiction authors that don't want to write a boring book and publish it. Self-Publish and Succeed. So if you haven't already grabbed a copy, grab a copy. It's for you. But also, if you have, please post a review because it really is the greatest gift you can give an author. And it also helps other readers know the book is for them. But you got to get reviews. So 20 reviews or more. If you don't have reviews and you're trying to revitalize sales on a book that is not selling, reviews are your first stop. If you have at least 20 reviews, then my next question is, have you had sales before? If your book had previously sold, a few hundred copies or more, and now it's not selling, then I would recommend running an ebook sale to just, boost up your sales. run a 99-cent ebook sale, pay for promotions on sites like Rifle, Bargain Booksy, Booksend, and just give your book a boost, and tell Amazon again that it is going to convert and that it is worth them starting to show to other people once again. If you've had sales and if you had sales, you have your reviews and you've done ebook sales, and that didn't perform, so your ebooks didn't perform, it might be time to do a refresh. Things change on Amazon, and for our clients, after a book comes out, we do a keyword category refresh every 6 months, because we want to make sure that we're staying current, because trends change, keyword searches change. It also could be time to look at that book description, or possibly even do a cover redo or refresh. So how do you know what to tackle? Well, for me, usually the best way to figure, do I tackle cover, description, or keyword update, is to look at the performance of Amazon ads. So if you're not running Amazon ads, you probably want to run them. There's other ways you could figure this out, but Amazon ads really gives me the clearest picture the fastest. And so what I look for is if Amazon ads are getting impressions, and it's impressions with keywords that I think should be getting impressions, but they're not getting clicks, then I would look at the cover. The cover might have a mismatch to that audience. And we actually talked about this on Saturday. We did a deep dive training. So if you missed that, I am actually going to, for one of the very only times I've ever done this, I'm actually going to post a replay in June of that deep dive once I have permission from one of the author experts that I featured. He had some news in that deep dive that I can't release until he has permission to share that news publicly. So once I have that, I will be releasing that video for you. But we talked about a cover that we're working on a refresh, and it came down to this. The Amazon ads were getting a lot of impressions, but they weren't getting clicks, and we love the cover. But you follow the data, and the data was telling us that the audience was not clicking on that cover, so something was off. So we're going to test that, and we'll see if that changes things up. My bet is that it does, but we'll know soon enough. And if it is getting clicks, but it's not getting sales, then you want to look at rewriting that description. If you're not getting impressions, then that's where there could be a keyword mismatch. And you might want to go back and see if you've got keywords that are relevant still, and redo the book description and rework those keywords and kind of go backwards there. Ultimately, though, if you've done all this and your book is not selling, sometimes it means you really need an expert to assess your book, and it might be time for a redo and then a relaunch. There are a ton of things that we build into the book before it's even published that set it up for marketing success. And all the marketing in the world won't fix the lack of a hook, a weak title, a lack of audience clarity, or just other market message mismatches that happen inherently inside of the book. It really doesn't matter, and only a book redo will work. And sometimes you just have to abandon the book and start with a new one. But I always recommend you get an expert assessment first and figure out if a book just needs a redo and a relaunch in order to save it. Phew, that was just number one, you guys. You can see why that's an entire video unto itself. For those of you just tuning in, we are talking about the 5 most commonly asked questions of self-published authors that I get asked anyways about self-publishing books. So do say hello. I see lots of folks are already saying hello and chatting. Exotic Expressions, Dance Fitness, hello. And almost 100 pages. So Exotic Expression, Dance Fitness said, I won your book as a prize a couple of weeks ago and just got it yesterday. And I'm already almost 100 pages and going to do a review on it, but highly recommends it. So thank you. That, of course, is about this book right here. I had somebody, I don't know if Stephen is here today, but Stephen Serrell has been posting on Twitter that he's now listening to the audiobook version of that for the 3rd time. That's a whole lot of my voice going through your head. But I really, really appreciate that. And speaking of the audiobook, Stephen, if you're watching this, I only have one Audible review specifically to Audible. So would deeply appreciate an Audible review. All right. Hello, Mary Lynn. Tobias, great to see you. Tobias was on, and Brian, they were both on the deep dive, so they know what I'm talking about when I talked about the deep dive. Benny, hello. Let's see. Anybody else here? Okay, Efren, hello, welcome. Mindful Eats, great to have you here. And Brian just said the last deep dive was the best. So you guys are in for a treat because I don't normally post them as a replay, but I am going to be posting this one in June because it really was the best. The authors that were the experts that during the session shared some amazing, amazing tips. And I think really give you a grounded view of what it's like to be a nonfiction author. So I really am excited to share that with you as soon as I possibly can. Okay, so the next most common question that I get asked is, if I have self-published, can I still submit my book to traditional publishers? The answer is yes. Sometimes a traditional publisher may say they won't take a book if it's been published before. But the reality is, the majority of traditional publishers only care about making a profit off of the book. So if your book is selling extremely well, they're not going to turn you away because it's been previously published. So um, there are some logistics to this, and there's a video that we put up about how to unpublish your book. Angela has that link, so she can drop that in the chat for you all to check out. So you'll have to unpublish it if you do sell your book to a publisher, but the reality, and you may have to buy up some existing stock or wait until it all sells. It'll depend on your contract what will be required of you. But the reality is that if your book is selling well, a traditional publisher is still going to be interested in it. Now, the trick, though, is that if you publish your book and it doesn't sell well, and by sell well, I mean selling 1,000 copies and sometimes multiple thousands of copies, depending on the genre. If it's not selling, in that volume, a traditional publisher is not going to be very interested in you unless there's a really niche kind of reason. So the exception to that is academia. Academic publishers will publish, take a book and publish it if it's sold less than that sometimes because their audience is very specific. They sell the books for $90. It's a very specific market. But generally speaking, most traditional publishers care the most about selling thousands and thousands and thousands of copies. So if you've already done that to your audience, they're going to feel pretty good that with their bookstore network and some added oomph behind your book, that they can help you sell a lot more. The question at that point is, do you even want to give a publisher your rights and your royalties? Because you're going to make, 1/6 to 1/8 of the amount per book sold when you get a traditional publishing deal. You're also giving away the rights to that content. So at that point, if you've already proven you can sell thousands and thousands of books without a publisher, the question will probably be more, do you even want them? But in some cases, you may. We had a client, Gautam Bade, who wrote The Joy of Compounding. And he, his goal the whole time was to land a traditional publishing deal for very specific reasons. And he did. And that was after he, proved he could sell books and his book would sell. And then he landed that deal. And that was part of our whole experience of unpublishing a book. That was one of the first times we helped unpublish a book. So the key there really is, yes, you can. So that's not a reason. If you really are seeking a traditional publisher for some reason, it's not a reason to not self-publish in the meantime. It might be a great way for you to land a publishing contract. But again, you may not want a publishing contract once you realize the advantages that you have as an independent author. Common question number 3 is coming right up, but I'm first going to do a draw for our Tuesday, Friday video commenters. So I'm heading on over to my random name picker where I have put all of the names of everybody who commented Tuesday and Friday from the last 2 weeks of videos, and we've put them in, and you will be entered to win. You can choose. I still have 2 copies of my book, which I can sign and send to you. So if you don't already have this, that's a great opportunity for you to get a signed copy because we're heading back. We're in Canada right now, but we're heading back to the States next week. So I am trying to clear our inventory of the final 2 books so that my mom doesn't have to store them. And so I've got those, but also, of course, we've got our Oh So Soft journal and our hashtag No Boring Books mug for you. Oh, and the winner is Michael Dominguez. I don't know if he's won the mug or the journal yet, but he just had his book launch last week. I think it was last week. It was very recent. The Armchair Real Estate Millionaire, and it's doing really well. It is such a it's just a really really great book, especially for Canadians. So the Canadians watching this, it is a really great introduction to buying a couple of pieces of property and watching your wealth grow dramatically while you kick back in your armchair. So that's great. So congratulations, Michael, and email us at team@booklaunchers.com. Let us know which prize you want, and pretty sure we know where to send it, but confirm where we should be sending it. So yay, congratulations, Michael. Okay, my friends, let's see what you guys are talking about. Okay. Aaron, hey, you're live. I don't know if you catch very many live streams, but great to have you. Has your book launched yet? I know it's coming up if it hasn't been. Okay, so let's see, Daniel. Oh, sorry. I'm reading Daniel's question. I'll just get Angela to hold those questions for me, and we'll come to the end and do all your questions at the end. So we'll carry on. We're talking about the most common self-publishing questions that I get asked. And common question number 3, how do I grow my social media profile or use social media to sell books? So now's for the participation question. What do you think? What is your best social media tip when it comes to book marketing? I'll give you guys a couple of minutes to go ahead and post that so I can get your brilliant ideas before I tell you what my comment on this whole subject is. So, for those of you who are kind of snoozing, you're sort of listening, this is your wake up call. Wake up, join in. And if you're watching the replay, you can play too. So how this is the question I get asked all the time is, how do I grow my social media profile and or use social media to sell books? So tell me, how does an author grow their social media profile or use social media to sell books? You go ahead, post your ideas in the chat, and I'm going to do my second YouTube draw while you're doing that, and then we'll go through your questions and your answers and your tips. So here we go. Do, 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 do. My next winner is Rhonda Reeves. All right. I don't know if Rhonda's here today live, but hopefully you're catching the replay and you find out that you are the proud winner of either Self-Publish and Succeed, our hashtag No Boring Books mug, or our Oh So Soft journal. You need to email us at team, at booklaunchers.com. Let us know what you want and where to send it. We don't know where you live, so you need to provide a mailing address so we can send it to the right place. All right. Okay, cool. So let's see what you guys are saying. Okay. We've got a tip from, Aaron says his book launches this Saturday. Good luck, Aaron. I've been thinking about you. Okay. So, Mindful Eats tip: post often, post interesting content. Good tip. Love it. Melissa, hey, welcome. Great to see you here. She says, love your show. And Aaron says, I had key public figures in my target audience write editorial review blurbs, and I share those as little graphics on social media. Yeah, that's a great tip. I love that one. Anybody else have tips? I'll give you guys another minute to share your tips, and then I'll choose a winner. Right now, I think we're going to go with Aaron's because that's a nice, specific, juicy tip for everyone. One of the things I have done is I selected a handful of Amazon reviewers, and I got our graphics, or one of our graphics designers, to create some really cool looking Instagram images, and I'm slowly posting those and using those in my newsletter content as well, which hopefully also encourages people to post reviews, but it also sells the book a little bit, adds some value. Exotic Expression says, ask questions. When I ask a question, my post gets so much more engagement. Yes, that's a great tip. Questions can be I see that a lot too. And polls on Instagram definitely get engagement as well. Engagement is really important for the algorithms. And that's, why I always encourage people to comment on the videos. It teaches the algorithm that this is relevant content, people are engaging with it. And all the algorithms are quite similar for the social media. So, if you post something on Facebook and you've asked a question and people are commenting, then Facebook knows to show that to more people and it spreads that way. And okay, so I think, and here's Doug says, I have used a Facebook group with great success, over 750 members and growing of readers. That's great, Doug. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about how you used it? So I assume it's your group. So you've engaged it, you've added value, you've created some content and or interaction amongst that group, or a place where people can share. And now it's a place where you've got supporters for your book. That's my guess. Mindful Eats says build a community and then they will support you back. So all of those things, that's great. That's really, really good tips. Erin, you're my winner. I don't know if you have won everything we have, but let us know if you want the mug, the journal, or the book, of course. Email us at team@booklaunchers.com. Okay, so my tip. Social media can absolutely be powerful, a powerful book selling tool for sure. If you have an existing audience, if you are looking at social media as a way to sell your book because your book is coming out on Saturday, just as an example, or your book's coming out in 2 months, you're going to have some challenges because generally speaking, social media is a slow build. It's very rare somebody starts a social media channel and it just blows up. Now, there's exceptions to that. If you have a big audience somewhere else, that can translate as they'll follow you to other platforms. But if you're building your audiences everywhere, it's going to be slow to build your social media following. It takes years. So, my recommendation is a little different in the short run, and you can use your book as a way to grow your platform over time. But we've seen it. Mark Magna was one of our clients. He wrote a book called Dream Big, Never Quit. It's a really great story of his life. He was a fat kid basically, and his football coaches told him, he was I think it was too fat to play football, or he wasn't going to make it. But he just dug in and gave her and ended up playing in the NFL. Really, really great story. And he has a great Instagram following, and that helped him sell a pretty nice number of books. Wendy Pease, she's the author of The Language of Global Marketing, Translate Your Domestic Strategies into International Sales and Profits. She's got a really great following on LinkedIn, and that's a perfect market for her book. And she used that to sell a good amount of books leading into and up to and after her launch. But if you have a book launching soon, then I actually would say don't worry about your social media at the moment. Find one you love, create a presence, and post. But really focus your efforts on building an author website and creating a great lead magnet. And then using that as you're doing promotion for your book. So as you're in newsletters, or you're getting podcast interviews, or you're doing media, or whatever it might be that you're going to do to promote your book, I highly recommend you send people to download that. So something like we have a workbook on the 7 steps to write a book that will sell. And this is really to help all those authors that get inspired and then they go, oh, I got an outline, and they start writing. And you've actually skipped 3 or 4 steps in the process that set you up for success when you do that. So the 7 steps will help make sure that you're set up for success. So you can check this out, just see how simple it can be to be effective. And you can see that at booklaunchers.com/7 steps. Angela will drop that into the chat. That's an example of an opt-in page. It's really simple, and a lead magnet. So when you sign up, if you haven't already gotten that from us, you sign up and you get that delivered to you. It helps you. It adds value, and it also solves the problem that a lot of authors have, which is they don't know where to start, or they just start writing and then they get lost. So this guide really helps you. So create something like that you can use when you're promoting your book, and drive people to sign up for your newsletter, because you're going to build your author platform that way. And once they're on your newsletter, you can always tell them, hey, check out this post I put on Instagram, or join me for this Clubhouse room. And actually, speaking of Clubhouse, that is one place that can really be a boost. It's funny, I was on a session, I don't know, about 10 days ago, where it was Brian Tracy and Les Brown. And my friend Deb was the moderator. And so she brought me up onto the stage. And just sitting on stage, I added, I think, 35 people following me on Clubhouse. But the interesting thing about Clubhouse is you can't direct message people. So they go to Instagram or Twitter and direct message you. And so I was adding followers on Instagram and Twitter from that too, just from me saying like 4 sentences and being on stage on Clubhouse. So Clubhouse is one of those places right now where you can build a following if you're active. I'm not very active on it. I don't, unfortunately, there's just not enough hours in the day for all the things that I'm doing. But I see this with other people who are on Clubhouse, and I've had a small taste of it. If you can be put on stage with influencers, which isn't that hard in many cases, you can grow your followings off of Clubhouse, but you can also build a really strong following on Clubhouse. And I did an interview on Clubhouse last week, and I got two podcast interviews from that Clubhouse session with some really cool podcasts. So Clubhouse is one of those places right now where I think there's a tremendous opportunity if you're starting fresh and you like the audio only platform. That might be somewhere that you could build a following quickly versus trying to break into the noise of Facebook and Instagram. Especially with the algorithms that really suppress you. They want you to pay to play, and it can be very hard to be heard even by people who do follow you, which is why creating engagement is so important. So ultimately, my answer is build an email list. You own it. You're not squatting on some social media platform that can change the rules or have an algorithm that squishes your content. You can have an email newsletter that you can send whenever you want and sell your books and sell your coaching, sell your services, your products, and ultimately build long-term relationships with people that way. So that's my answer to that common question. Common question 4 is, when is the best time to work with book launchers? And I get this a lot, obviously, because that's one thing I'm talking to a lot of people about is using our full service self-publishing team in order to help them write, publish, and promote their nonfiction book. The answer to this is kind of it depends, but ultimately, the best time to work with my team is as soon as possible, because we have a story expert who will help you craft. Actually, we have a couple story experts, but we have one main story expert who will help you craft the hook of your book, create that story experience for your reader, really help you get clear on who that reader is and what makes you unique, like what is going to help you sell this book. And then from there, create a writing plan. And then the writing plan, you either get paired with a writer to help you write it or a writing coach to get coached through writing it. And then once the first draft is done, we put you through all the editing and so forth. Now, a lot of people, or some people, look at that and go, "Oh, and we're monthly. You pay us monthly or a prepaid year for services because we're set up as a membership. And as long as you're a member, we keep working on your book." So, we have some wonderful clients who've been with us almost since we started, like S.A. Bradley, who was on the deep dive on Saturday, who's been with us, 3.5 years, coming up on 4. So you can stay with us for as long as you want. And many are working on new books now. But we'll keep marketing your book as long as you stay with us. And so some people look at that and they go, "Oh, I can save money by writing the book on my own and then bringing it to you for editing, design, publishing, and promotion." And the answer is sort of. You probably will save a little bit of money, but one of our clients gave me the most perfect analogy for that. Because he did that. He went off and he took a year and he wrote his book. He brought it to us, and then we put it through our editing. And, he said the experience was a lot like building a house without a blueprint. And he said, and then you bring it to the inspector, and the inspector goes, "Whoa, you put the walls in the wrong place, and we got to rip up the floors and move the pipes." And you end up ripping the house apart in order to put it back together. And then it's never quite as good as it would have been if you started with the blueprint. He's like, it passes inspection, but you just know it's just not quite as good as it could have been. So that's why I say come to us as soon as possible, because we will give you the blueprint so that you can help build this amazing house. And, we have the team to help you all the way. The exception to that is an experienced writer. You can engage our services, for the editorial design and so forth. We also have some people who come to us, they work with us to get the structure of their book down, to write a couple chapters so they get the flow. And then they might pause for a couple of months, write the book, and then come back. But we always caution people not to go too far away, because some people can start writing one book and then veer off and get lost and end up with two books that aren't quite done in one book. It can be quite an experience. So that's the answer to that question. Ultimately, we'll take a look at whatever you've got, so long as it's not past the design phase. If your book has gone through layout and cover and you're just looking for somebody to publish and market it, we're not currently taking anybody at that point. We've tried in the past, and there's just so much marketing magic that we bake into the process early on, that we found it's really hard to market books that haven't done the things that we do. And there really aren't a lot of people, companies, services out there that do what we do in order to create a marketable book, because most of them stop when it's published. So they don't have the same buy-in that we do to make your book successful, because our team's going to be marketing it at the other side. And our marketing team's involved. Like, we have meetings where everybody talks about book projects all together. So there's input from the whole team into a book, from the writers all the way to the people pitching you at the end for podcasts and speaking engagements and live appearances and all that fun stuff. Mindful Eat says, is Clubhouse still for iPhone users? No, they came out with an Android app last week. So it's super exciting that everybody can now play on Clubhouse. So that's pretty cool. Just checking to see if there's anything else. Otherwise, I know Angela's collecting our Angela's collecting questions. So if you're asking questions, Angela's collecting them for me. I'm just, a couple more social media tips. And Mindful Eat says, build a community and they will support you back. That's what I've done with book launchers. All of you folks, you fabulous YouTube besties, that has been my community. You supported me with the launch of Self-Published and Succeed. So that was great. Another tip is be interested, not interesting, not just interesting. That's great. Absolutely. Exotic expressions. Great one. Okay, so I'll just head back over. And Clubhouse not in Canada yet? What do you mean, Doug? I'm in Canada. I'm in Canada and I'm on Clubhouse. Although maybe it's because I have a US phone. So, but we've had Canadians on our Clubhouse. I'm not sure why you say that. Okay, cruising right along. Our final question of the day before I answer all your questions. The most common question, or one of the most common questions, because we do have writers that will help you with your book. I get asked, how do I find a great ghostwriter? This comes out in a variety of questions, but ultimately that's usually kind of the gist of what somebody's asking. And I actually have another guide. So if this is your question and you want more in-depth answer, you can go to booklaunchers.com, get a ghost. It's also another example of another kind of lead magnet or a reader magnet. So you can check that out. Now, there's many problems with finding ghostwriters that you kind of have to understand going into this. The biggest problem is a lot of people don't want anybody to know they worked with a writer. So writers can't disclose the projects they worked on. They can say, I worked on a baseball memoir, or I wrote a finance book. But they often can't tell you the specific titles because of the contracts they have, because that's why they're called ghostwriters. So you can't always know their experience. And also, even if you do get told what title, you can't really judge a book, a writer, based on the final product of a book, because there's so much that happens from the time the first draft happens to the end, that it's difficult to say what role the writer actually played in the creation of that manuscript. It's not that a writer isn't important. It is important. But what I think is the most important thing for you to focus on is making sure the writer certainly can cover your subject area. So making sure they're familiar, comfortable, versed a little bit in your category. They don't even have to know your topic in general. I'll touch on that in a second. But more importantly is they have the ability, capability, talent to capture your voice, because they're typing, they're putting the words down on paper, but they should be your words, your voice, your ideas, your concepts. And so if you're hiring and not working with a company like us, the cool thing about us is we do know the projects our writers have worked on. And so we can pair somebody with a writer that we know has certain experience and expertise. And so we have that kind of background information that you may not get to know, but we'll know the roster of books that a writer has had experience on. But the test for you is to figure out if a writer can capture your voice. And so if you're not working with a service like us that trains and vets and oversees the whole process, and you're just hiring your own ghostwriter, I would recommend taking a concept that's going to be in your book and recording a voice note of you just talking it out, teaching it, and then giving that voice note to a prospective writer to see if they can capture your voice in the writing. And um, and that would be a really good test. And again, it's not about making sure that every word is one that you would choose, but does it sound like you? And if it does feel like you, sound like you, then that's great. Now, one thing that happens, and I want to caution you in case this is your situation, is a lot of people come to me and they say, I need a writer who can write technical. They understand this, they understand that, they've written books on this subject before. They have a base level of knowledge, which is fair, except when I ask this next question is, what does your reader know coming into this? If the answer is they already know all that stuff, then absolutely you need a writer that's well versed in your subject. But if you're teaching to a novice writer or a reader that only has basic knowledge, then you actually want a writer who can capture your voice, understands the content, but also understands what needs to be explained and broken down. So there can be tremendous benefit of bringing somebody in as a writer who has the ability to comprehend your concepts and distill them down to a voice that is, or not a voice, distill them down into words that are going to connect and engage with your ideal reader. Again, this isn't about you looking smart to your colleagues. This is where a lot of people trip up. We see this especially with people who have PhDs. They are used to writing and even speaking in a certain way that uses big words, jargon, henceforth, thus. I'm making that part up. But they use words that aren't necessarily conducive to creating a hashtag no boring book. And ultimately, if your reader is at that PhD level, 100%, you're probably going to want to look for a technical writer who's well versed in your subject area. But if your reader is the everyday person, then you don't want somebody who doesn't understand, you want somebody who's going to question the things that you think are common knowledge, because you know so much more than that average person that you're talking to. So you really want that ability to communicate to that person. So that's really, really important, and something a lot of people miss when they're hiring ghostwriters. So those are 5 of the most common questions. Like I said at the beginning, I could have done 20. There's a lot of common questions, but those hit on some of the big subjects I get asked. So hopefully you got one of those tips was your favorite today. Oh, Scully's is here. Scully's House of Thrillers is in the house. Brett Jackson, author. Hello, welcome. Okay, Angela, if you want to do a roundup of our questions, there we go, then we'll do those, and we'll do the final prize today, which is going to be, the date is the 18th. So we'll go 18 up from Angela's comment, which is KW Matterhorn, sure thing, and I'll put your question down in the queue. So Angela, if you want to count 18 up from that, after you give me my first question that I need to answer, then we'll have our final winner of the day for you. Okay, so I'm just checking out who else is here. KW Matterhorn's in the house. Great to see you. It's always great to have you. And oh, Clubhouse is not in Canada yet on Android. I didn't know that. That's too bad. I'm sure it's coming. I'm sure it's coming. It's coming quickly. Okay, so Angela says, this is a question from Daniel. I think you misunderstood my question from the last time I was here. My question was not if I could get in LA Unified Middle and High School libraries, but rather how I could. Yeah, I kind of thought we addressed the how. There's a whole process behind getting into the libraries, especially the school libraries. There's specific buying process. So the first thing is a lot of, the answer is going to depend on so many things. And it depends on the school system and who's doing the buying for those libraries for the school systems. And I'm not a school system library expert. We have done university college levels, specific store buying. We've touched on libraries for that. But generally speaking, we focus on public libraries, and that comes down to actually, interestingly, the best way to get into those libraries, which may be a lead in for the school libraries, is to get your book requested by members. Public libraries are driven by member demand. So if you want your book to be carried, get people who are members of that library to ask for that book. Member requests are probably the biggest, fastest way to get your book carried into a library. And then once your book is carried by multiple libraries, and especially if you can get it into an influential library like the Chicago Library, if you can get your book carried there, when other libraries look it up when it gets requested, they feel reassurance if a library in their system or one of these big influential libraries is carrying it. They feel reassured. So they'll often order it then. So there's a whole process to that. But beyond that, I'm not actually like going into middle schools, high schools. I mean, we focus on nonfiction books for adults. So honestly, I haven't spent a lot of time diving into those categories. Okay. 18th comment back was none other than Brian Krieger. All right, Brian, I won't do what I've done to you before, which is say, congratulations, you now have the honor of choosing someone else. But if you've won everything and you do want to choose someone else, you can do that. But if you haven't won everything, let us know what you want. Oh, Veronica, it's great to have you here. Okay, let's see. Angela, do we have another question? I see one that's popped up here, so I'll answer that one while you I don't know. I entertained myself, Brian. I'm sorry. I only have me to talk to here, so no, seriously. Okay, so Angela did give me another question. Well, I'm going to answer this question. And I'll come back to Mindful Eats question. Matterhorn, I wonder how much ghostwriters charge on average. So that Get a Ghost does cover that a little bit. The range of what ghostwriters charge is enormous. Most will charge on a per word basis. If you're working with somebody who is experienced, but they haven't had a New York Times bestseller, then you're looking at somewhere around 30 cents to 60 cents per word of your finished manuscript. And keep in mind, most business books are 55,000 to 70,000 words. So you'll need to do the math on that. If you're working with an author who has hit the New York Times bestsellers list with some of their work, or they have celebrity endorsements or high profile endorsements, you're probably looking at $1 per finished word. Some even charge more than that if they've written a book for like Barack Obama or some of the big names, big sellers. They're charging upwards of $3 per word. But a typical business book ghostwriter is going to charge that 30 cents to 60 cents per finished word range. If you're paying substantially less than that, or you're going through like Fiverr or some of those other services, it's really buyer beware. There's been quite a few stories of going through Fiverr and getting plagiarized work and things like that. And so you got to be careful with where you're getting your writers and their recommendations, referrals, experiences, and things like that. Okay, let's see. Brian stepped away. Take number 28. Okay, so 28 up from Brian's comment. Now that would be funny if it was Brian again, but who knows? Okay, 28 up from Brian's comment, or I guess we could go from Angela's original comment. Let's go from Angela's original comment. That's fair, isn't it? The 28th person back already won today. So go about 28 back from Brian's comment then. If you went 28 back from your comment, go 28 back from Brian's and see if we can get a different person. Okay, I saw Mindful Eats had a question. If you are based in Canada, but you want to sell in the UK and Canada, do you upload your book on Amazon UK or .ca, both or separately? For us, our authors are in North America. Actually, we have authors all over the world. But our authors are generally focused on selling in North America. However, we set it up so that they have distribution in all the English-speaking countries. So when you upload it to Ingram, you will get a lot of distribution in English-speaking countries, in English-speaking countries in various platforms, including Amazon. When you upload it to KDP, there's some options as to where you want your distribution. Ingram tends to be a better platform for some of the Amazon International, but KDP, which is Amazon's company, KDP Print, has decent distribution. When you're talking distribution in UK and Europe in particular, I would also recommend uploading your ebook to Draft to Digital, because there's some really great subscription platforms now that have a lot of traction in Europe in particular, but also in the UK. And Draft to Digital can reach that. Draft to Digital also gets your book into Overdrive, which is the library system. So that can be a really good boost for that. Again, I don't know if that helps you, Daniel, with middle schools. I'm, again, not an expert in that, but it is the library system. So Overdrive should really help with libraries everywhere. Okay. Whew. Do we have all the questions? Did we get them all, Angela? That was a big one. So just a quick little heads up. So there will not be a regularly scheduled live in 2 weeks, but I will shoot the video in advance, do the draws, give you guys some great content, and I'll be posting it. But we will be driving. I believe the date is June 2nd would be the next regularly scheduled every other Tuesday live stream. But we'll be driving. We're heading from Canada back to our home in the USA. So it takes us about 4 days to drive back with a little kid and a dog. We have many stops that are required to make our way down. So we'll be on the road that day. So there won't be a live stream, but I will not leave you hanging. I will post a video for you. One last video with the red brick wall before I take it down, and you guys can see my new background wherever that may be. All right. So I think that's it. All right. Thanks everybody for being here, all your comments. It was fabulous to see you all again. And I look forward to catching you on the Tuesday, Friday comments on the videos. If you guys have other questions, you're watching the replay, you have more questions, just go ahead and post them and I will get back to you. All right. Take care. Thanks everybody.